Can a Cornhusker beat a duck? That's what I'm asking.
No, it can't.
You don't think so?
How angry do you think this duck is?
These are fierce. These are battle ducks. These are not.
Oh,
duck.
that's okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it probably depends on what kind of footwear the Cornhusker has on.
That's right. And unfortunately, there are no actual Cornhuskers anymore. But when they did exist, they wore rough-hewn socks made of whatever material.
Crafted.
Yeah, they were
Carefully
horrible.
crafted by Mudgear.
Well, that's why your average Cornhusker never went very far.
Oh, because he didn't have Mudgear socks.
They led crappy lives and they wore crappy socks. And yeah, it was bad for them and everyone around them. So,
well, you know what they say, Dredd? You know what they say?
What do they say, Dark?
Life's too short to wear crappy socks.
It's true, even for a Cornhusker.
If you're going to be a winner, you're going to need a coach.
Sharpening doesn't happen by accident. A blade left untouched will rust, and a man left unchallenged will stagnate. Every man needs friction, resistance, and a whetstone to grind away weakness and reveal his true edge. Welcome to the Whetstone, where we reject comfort, disrupt the status quo, and forge men ready for impact. Hosted by Dredd, Dark Helmet, and me, the Plague. This is where men step out of the drift and into acceleration, because iron sharpens iron, and no man sharpens alone.
And
we're back.
Got much more efficient now with that.
Wow,
Yeah,
that might be the most efficient we've ever done.
I was gone a week, and I decided we're not going to lollygag. There'll be no lollygagging around.
No lollygagging. Yeah. Where were you last week, Helmet?
Last week, yeah, okay, I think it's fine to share. He served as the nation's steward for a little while, about a year, a guy named U-Haul. And he found out right after the first year that he had stage 4 colorectal and liver cancer, and he passed away last week. And
wow.
Last week,
2 months.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say 2 months.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of those months was basically in bed. I spent the last couple of weeks, not every waking, every free moment, but close, probably over his house, helping his wife and kids and him and all that kind of stuff. So tap for U-Haul's family, M. U-Haul, his son Bowser, his daughter Emma, and the many, many men that were involved.
Yeah.
But yeah.
How old?
Tough week. It was a tough week. 50.
How old is he?
He and I were literally 1 week apart. He's a week younger than I am.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, definitely thoughts and prayers for them. It's interesting, right? I think in all of this stuff that we do, I think Dredd and I kind of commented last week of like how special to get to be a part of a moment like that with somebody. Like, I think.
If you'll indulge me a second, Plagu,
yeah,
and Dreadliest of all Dreadlies. I had a few thoughts, kind of around this. And on Tuesday, so there were a couple of us who were kind of dear friends, and one guy named Tesh, Will Bryan here, and because he played the piano, so they named him Tesh, like John Tesh.
Nice.
Here in the fort. And he had started, once we found out that U-Haul had cancer, he started a Tuesday morning ruck. He would ruck from the I think the neighborhood, like, community center or whatever, and to U-Haul's house, and they would pray on U-Haul's lawn. And there were probably, 15 guys or so, on any given week that would go. And then when we kind of knew it was pretty much at the end, we kind of put out there on our Slack and said, hey, you need to come. We're all going, we're going to close it up, other AOs, not all the other AOs. Some guys still worked out, but we said, hey, do what you want to do, but we're going to ruck. So we rucked in from the local high school about 1.5 miles, or ran, you pick. And there were about 82 guys, I think, that showed up on his lawn.
Wow.
We're able to talk to than widowed, because the night before, that Monday night, he passed away at like 8:30 at night. And then that morning we rucked to his house and were able to talk to his wife and his son. But there were a few kind of reflections as we go through. As we were getting ready to leave and head out on the ruck or the run, I pulled everybody in there and I said, look, here's the thing. We've got a number. I mean, I think it's kind of, in fact, there's even a stupid Netflix show that I have not watched yet, but somebody recommended to me, called something about like Inside the Manosphere or some foolishness. I haven't listened to it yet. But there's this whole kind of, a lot of men's movements, if you will, that are sort of out there right now. It's become quite popular, naturally, because, Dredd, who he is, we're 15 years ahead of everyone else. But, what are you going to do? I mean, it's just it's the nature of being a prophet.
Right. No bragging, no apologies.
That's right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. But you have a lot of these guys out there. You got kind of this red pill sort of, Andrew Tate, who I think has more or less successfully identified parts of the problem, but instead of
different red pill from ours, though, by the way.
Correct. Yes. That is just that is sort of the red pill. We are a daily red pill.
Daily red
different
pill,
thing.
right.
And again, 15 years ahead of these jokers, right?
It is kind of funny when I see that. I don't like the way it's used by that manosphere, because, but I refuse to give up on, because we got it first. We took it first.
We were first.
Yeah.
And much like some of the other terms and things that are out there, Dredd, we fully intend to reclaim these things.
That's right. Right.
When those idiots are done abusing it, we'll reclaim it and give it its true nature back.
It's almost as if they've taken, I don't want to interrupt. I was going to just.
No, please.
It's almost as if they've come in and cherry picked everything positive about us, everything wholesome, and taken that and just gotten rid of that, pulled that out, and then you're left with just a bowl of toxicity. That's just
a husk of goo and feces. That is what I think they have got.
They've taken the F3 mask, hollowed out what's inside, and they wear it around like a skin suit. And
it's like the some of the bad, like the terrible older the later seasons of Walking Dead. That's what
exactly.
When they do. But I think that so a couple things with that. One, yes, and I don't think that they intentionally did that, because they probably didn't even really know we exist. But I do believe that the forces that don't want us to win do those sorts of things.
Yeah. Of course.
And I really believe that. But you got kind of that guy, or that sort of end of things. But instead of fixing the problem, they prescribe poison, as the way to cure. I mean, they're objectively non-virtuous men. They're not living how I believe a man should live. Then on the other end of that, you got the other guys who are kind of the sad clowns, right? And they're living in this just, desperate, terrible. And they prescribe nothing, because they are happy to be overly feminized to the point where they are completely ineffective, because they don't see another way to do it. The risk in the fight is too much, and they're unwilling, right? And right here in the middle is where we are, right? The minivan centurions. And as I'm sitting there with, they had hospice nurses and stuff coming in, and the family is there, and he's in a lot of pain and different things, right? And he, I'm going to share all this because I think I can. You can always edit it if you want anyway. But we're sitting there, and at one point, he's laying in the hospital bed, and he's super uncomfortable and just a lot of pain. You can see it in his face, just grimacing. And his wife says, "Do you want to try and move back to the recliner?" And she's like, "I just moved him like a few hours ago, and it was such an ordeal. It was horrible to get him from here to here. Like, he was it was terrible." And she says, "I just don't know if I have it in me to do that." But I was there with them, and I said, "Well, don't worry about it." And she says, "Well, what are we going to do?" And then she suggested, "Should we kind of pray over him before we do that?" I said, "Absolutely." So I offered a prayer, a little bit more than a prayer, but yeah. So we did that, and instantly his body relaxes. He calms down, right? And I said, "Look," his wife's name's Amanda. I said, "Look, Amanda, he can't weigh more than about $150 at this point. Okay. He's conscious enough right now, and clearly his body has relaxed enough that we can do." So I just walked over. This is normally a 2-3 person deal, and they would move him from here, and they moved this chair over here, and there was whatever. And I just scooped him up, and carried him over and laid him gently in the recliner, because that is what a man does for another man.
Mm.
That's how I felt in my heart. So as we're getting ready to leave this thing on Tuesday morning, I said, we've got the Andrew Tates on this side. We got the sad clowns on this side. And right here in the middle, we're not a fitness group. We're not a fitness group. We use fitness to teach leadership. We use fitness to teach a man and equip a man to lead, to be a man. And I said, if this, with 80 guys standing there, if this isn't what this is for, I don't know what we're for. I don't know what we're for. We are, like it or don't, anybody can fight me. In fact, with love, I'm about to get a lot more vocal and probably a little bit more pointed, more publicly, I think, on this, because I think the time has come. And I'm kind of saying it as an Antan, right? But like, it's time for us to stand, not just be there in the breach, in sort of this gap, and be willing to catch, when something falls. I think it's time for us to we're going to go on the proactive a little bit more. And it's time for men to recognize that what we are doing is creating virtue in men. And I say creating, that's not a fair, the virtue is there.
Mm-hmm.
We're reawakening it, right? We're reinvigorating it, that virtue, that leadership, the putting that heart back in a man. And as I sat there and was able to do some of these things, and this isn't, everybody, feel good about helmet. I don't care. My point is simply saying anybody could have done that. Any one of our guys could have done that, right? And would have. And I have no doubt that there's people across the country who are doing it, but because they don't sit in the chair, they don't, it's not as public or whatever. That's fine, right? But those are the men that we must be. And it's not enough for us anymore to sit back and go, well, I sure hope somebody asks us to lead, right? Or, gosh, these CrossFit guys sure are nice guys. Yeah, they're just a workout group.
Mm-hmm.
If that's all you want to be, go do it. That's not what we're about. We're here to recapture virtue. And as F3 men, I believe, as an F3 as an organization, we've said this many times, we're not going to change the world. We're going to change the men who change the world. We're an organization of infiltration, right? Our job is to give you the framework and the headspace and the inspiration and all of those things, and exhort you. Vape, right? We're going to vape you right through, and we're going to say, go be wherever it is you're supposed to be, and by golly, teach those sons of guns to lead.
Mm-hmm.
Show them what it looks like.
Yeah.
Teach them the principles. Right? A couple of weeks ago, we talked about me going down to that, to Orlando to speak to that company. That's a company, and that's great. And I think we can help them. And I think what we did there did help them. Teaching them the F3 principles and teaching them leadership in that way. I think it absolutely did. I think it will pay dividends for that company. That's wonderful. Now, apply that to much larger, right? Much more scalable. Guys, I think sometimes read Q source and they get caught in get right and forget that there's 3 other quadrants.
Yeah.
And they never end up getting down to, friend, what you're supposed to do is get right and stay right so that you can create small dynamic teams in your home, in your community, in your workplace, all these places where you influence the other people and teach them and inspire them and help them and guide them and equip them so that they can become virtuous leaders, man, woman, or otherwise, doesn't matter, right? Leadership's leadership. And I'm tired of sitting back and pretending like we're not the ones teaching it. I'm tired of sitting back and pretending like somebody else has it more figured out than we do. Because guess what? They don't. They don't. And I would go toe to toe with any of them anytime and happily discuss it with them in a loving manner, of course. Don't get me wrong. Right? But I think, this guy being a week apart from me in age, sitting with him and reviewing with him the list of things that he had yet to do with his son, that now we as F3 men have committed to pick up. We're going to teach that kid to drive. We're going to teach him to shave. We're going to teach him to date. We're going to, all the things. Teach him how to use tools. Teach him how to shoot a gun. Teach him all the things.
Yeah.
All the things that he's supposed to know. Because that's what a leader does in his community. That's what he does for the families and the people where he is, that he is proximate to. We, in Free to Lead, Dredd wrote about, at the end in Freedom Park, he looked around and his daughter remarked and was like, why are there no police here? Oh yeah, we don't need the police. We have the daddies. Right. And that's the deal. Right.
Yeah.
The state doesn't have to come in and teach and take care of that family. Right. They don't have to. Why? We have the daddies. We'll take care of it. We'll take care of it. With love in my heart, your local CrossFit gym isn't going to take care of it. Your local men's club isn't going to take care of it. Your local Moose Lodge ain't going to take care of it. Nobody's going to take care of it. We will take care of it. Yeah. We will take care of it. We will be the wall against which non-virtuous living bangs itself against and loses. Period. That's what I feel like I have learned over the last couple weeks, being with that family.
We'll just end it there.
And we're out.
And we're out. I couldn't help but think, something that guys locally give me a hard time, because normally when I meet somebody, it's a matter of minutes before I basically tell them, hey, I'm the plague, and I'm 8 years in recovery from cocaine and substance abuse, and guys give me a hard time because they're like, you don't even give the guy a chance to do a Merkin before he knows that you're a drug addict and in recovery. And I think
it's kind of like going to Harvard. I can't not tell you.
Yeah, well, I think part of why I'm so quick to do that is because I didn't find anywhere else before F3 that it was okay for me to admit that kind of thing, and I want that guy to know from the first second he steps into that group that, like, this is the place that you've been trying to find, where you get to show up and be yourself, and this group will refine you and restore you to sort of the image that God had created you in, and so I'm working on that, maybe to give them at least one workout, or maybe wait till coffee or something. But it just like weighs on me that a lot of guys are coming into F3 and we've talked about this on here before. Like, they've tried to find it and they've been let down. And so, just continuing to kind of share that message that, like, this is the place. And I truly believe, at least for me, like, I couldn't that virtue couldn't be reinvigorated because I had so many, what we've talked about, self-limiting beliefs, and so many things walls that I was putting up on my own. And so, I think just, I love it. It's a really cool example of how we get to serve each other in our communities. That's really cool.
Bye.
Well,
so what did you really want to talk about today?
No, I think, and it talks about this in Free to Lead, right? Like fitness, fellowship, and faith is part of the framework, but ultimately this is the way we reinvigorate male community leadership. In my opinion, a spiritual journey. But we've been on this path of zebra jockeys, and last week we kind of we were talking about the razors, or how do we focus on, assume it's a horse coming out of that barn. And by doing so, that actually makes us more ready for the zebra when that shows up. And I think it's really good. I was sort of thinking about all the places where I'm like, I think I'm prepared because I'm looking for the zebra. But as Dredd and I kind of talked through that last week, it was because I'm so hyper anticipatory of this zebra, I'm like missing the zebra when it is actually a zebra, if that makes sense.
You mean like the horse comes out and you're like, oh no, I'm ready for the zebra.
Let me paint stripes on it, overcomplicate the heck out of it so that it looks like a zebra. Yeah. But I am wondering, I had a recent example at work where we've been working on this pretty big project, I think pretty impactful. And I felt like I was vaping, doing a good job, sharing my vision and persuading people. And then we had a meeting last week where the leadership team kind of presented an idea that was, to me, was like okay, this is like 5 steps backwards. And it made me, so this next chapter in the Zebra Jockey is about obstacles and just sort of how do we work through that. And so I'm, trying to like control my thoughts and all of that sort of stuff. But I don't know, wanted to just talk through, like, how do we work through some of those things when they do come up in the middle of I don't know if we're riding a horse and we get bucked off, if that's the analogy, or how that fits in there, but we'd love to just kind of process that with you guys today.
Talk a little about obstacles, you mean?
Yeah.
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 Well, analogy is mountain biking, if I recall from the chapter.
Yeah. This is the speed versus line, right?
Yeah, and it actually where that occurred was the Ann Springs Greenway down in Fort Mill, which you probably know where that is.
South McDougal.
Yeah, south of the
I do.
McDougal.
I've been there many a time.
And I used to do a lot of mountain biking down there. This is 20 years ago, maybe even more. And I wasn't very good at it, and I was always riding with this other guy who was very good at it. And but he always looked pretty effortless to me. But I would as I did it, he was a cyclist, a road cyclist. I never was, but I started to kind of catch up to him from a stamina standpoint. In the straightaways after months. He wasn't blowing me away on that, but when we went through the obstacle patches, rocks, stumps, these little wooden bridges, dark little 4x4s, he would just kill me because I would always go down and he wouldn't. And if you fall down on your mountain bike, your feet are in the clips on the pedals, and it's like you're a mess and all this stuff. And I was mad one day, and he comes circling back and he looks down at me, and I'm like, screw this, I'm throwing my bike down. Screw this, I don't want to do anything. And he says, do you want to know what you're doing wrong? And I said, wow, I suck at mountain biking. He goes, you suck at mountain biking, but that's not really what you do wrong. If you want to know specifically, I'll tell you.
That's right.
And I said, yeah, okay, tell me. And he goes, when you approach, I'm lying in this rock field that I'd fallen in for the 100th time, that he just was right there. And he said, what do you think about when you approach this rock field? What's in your mind? And I said, well, I'm trying to pick out the best pathway through that obstacle field. And he goes, I know, that's why you're falling. I said, well, why? He said, because you're thinking. And because you're thinking, you stop pedaling. Or your pedaling is decelerating in speed. He said, your brain is taking over your body, and you're trying to maneuver your way through. And that means when you hit a rock, you're going slower, and that's going to knock you down. The only way to get through an obstacle is be accelerating when you hit it. I said, so what am I supposed to be thinking of? He goes, don't think about the line, think about the speed. Just focus on keeping your speed up. And he goes, let the line take care of itself. Okay. I said, what about these little bridges? Because I always fell on them. They were 4x4s, over those little streams, and I would get halfway across and and he'd go right over them. He said, the last thing you want to think about when you get to one of those little bridges, as you come down to it, is not to keep the steering wheel straight, the handlebar straight. Think about pedaling faster. And I said, that sounds crazy. I'll fall for sure. And he goes, well, you fall every time, so why don't you just try that? Something new.
Kick any horse.
Yeah. Very next bridge we get to, I'm like, okay, turn my brain off, start pedaling faster. I just aimed at the edge of the bridge and right over. First time ever. And of course, I'm like, then I fell down. I said, how the heck did you know that? Because that's the way it works, man. Just keep when you perceive an obstacle, think about pedaling faster. And that was, I can think of the guy's name. I named him Randy. That's not his real name. To protect the innocent. It's funny. The guy who did this with me, his name is actually Rick. And I just keep the first initials so I can remember. But he died of cancer at a very young age too.
Really?
Maybe 50. And he was never F3, but he was a Blue Ridge Relay guy. He triathlete and all this stuff. Strong dude.
Yeah.
And he got hit with, I forget what it was, but he didn't make it very far. But his thing about not approaching obstacles is something you had to carefully pick your way through, but something you had to speed your way through, because when it comes to obstacles, speed trumps line. Speed trumps line. And that's kind of how a zebra jockey has to operate, right? I mean, if you see an obstacle and you want to control your route through it, right? You want to have the exact right, perfect route. Then you are going to slow down. That control will slow you down. And it's very unlikely that you'll be loose enough to get through. My ex-wife, of all people, taught me this, a similar thing. She was a horse jumper. And if you've ever seen a horse jumper, it's pretty amazing. You know, they have this little ring, and then there's these obstacles that the horse jumps over with the rider. And I used to watch her do this. She weighed about 110 pounds. She was this little slip of a girl. And she'd be up on this giant horse and she'd bump, bump, bump up to this, you know, gate or whatever. Something, there's a little water thing, bush, whatever. Whew, over. And I remember her, I was watching her. I was like, what are you looking at when you do that? Because she didn't seem to be focusing. She says, when you approach a jump, you look at the next jump. I said, what? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And she said, as the horse approaches the jump, don't look at it because you will start being anxious. Your anxiety will transfer through your legs to the horse. You'll feel it.
Yep.
Look at the next jump because you're not anxious about the next jump because it's out there. I mean, that's pretty wild. Same idea, right?
Is this, yeah.
Same
That's
idea.
it made me think
Right.
of. Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Now, is that with the horses that you let somebody else graze on your land, or is it?
So you heard that? You've heard that too?
I
Marvin?
have, yeah. And actually, if you're looking down at the jump, some horses will just stop. They
Stop.
don't-
That's exactly what she said.
Yeah.
She said, if you're focused in on that jump, the horse feels it through your legs or somehow. And that's where you see, if you ever see somebody doing this, that the horse stops and the rider goes 6 over tea kettle, like into the bush or whatever, it's because they're looking down at, they're tensing up. And you can't
That's
fight.
interesting. Yeah,
You can't
their
fight through
focus is on the
obstacles.
problem.
Right. And
Yeah,
so
interesting.
much so that we tend to say fight through the obstacles, right? When in an obstacle course in the military, we would say negotiate the obstacle. This is a wholly different world, right? You need to negotiate that obstacle. And there's also some truth to that too, is like, just go as fast as you can, right? And leap into it.
Honestly, I do. I haven't done. Obviously, I'm not ridden horses.
You've done obstacle courses, though.
I would say, but
Yeah.
when you said that just now, it made me
Yeah.
think like, and other places in my life too, like when, whether it was certain kind of sporting things, like throwing a ball a certain way or whatever, like, and like I would see somebody do it and then I could mimic it. Okay. And then when somebody's like, well, let me teach you a little something. Let me explain it to you a little bit better. And I started thinking about it too much.
Right.
It would just go down the crapper. Like it'd be terrible. And like
Right.
water skiing was like that too, where they'd be like, if you're doing a slalom course, I don't know if you're familiar with that whole deal where you cut back.
Yeah,
He's like,
sure.
if you look at the ball, it's over.
Yeah.
You have to look about 15 feet ahead of the ball, right? That's in the water, and aim there and think ball, no ball. It doesn't matter. Like the ball is not here, right? You have to just sort of get into this rhythm. Yeah. That's interesting because you're part of the, well, obstacles are inevitable, right? There's absolutely no way you're going to live an obstacle-free life. And if all you do is worry about and think about what's the best, most perfect way, the spreadsheet, way to get around or through or to, whatever this thing, then you're focused on it's like, it's almost like a negative thought pattern, right? Does that make sense?
Right.
Like, it's like if all I think about is how stupid I am, then I'm going to be stupid, like, right?
Right.
You're never going to get out of it. You got to dwell on the thing. That's interesting. Yeah.
And, of course, it's difficult when you first start trying to zebra jockey, inculcate these things into what you do, which is be focused more on preparation and let execution take care of itself. Once you start doing that, initially it's kind of hard, right? It's a little difficult. Take a guy who learns how to lead a workout, right? And you tell him the calls and explain things to him, right? First time he's out there, he's got a winky, and of course it's, a cluster. Of course it's going to be. And then over time, the more you do it, the more you do it, the more you do it. And the fact that you can consistently call cadence and use standard calls and all that, you stop thinking about it. The obstacle of getting it right kind of recedes. And I noticed, like today I was leading the SIP, and I just forgot the name of the jack hell, right? Which is the jack web. You ever done the jack web, Plagu? You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
You know, the push up and the air press?
Yeah, we did that this morning with, but instead with cinder blocks.
Okay, well, then you guys are doing what we did. Because, you know, of
that's
course,
jack hell, pretty
right,
much.
nothing that hurts a little can't be made to hurt more
Right.
if you put some steel on it. So I don't even remember when we started doing this, but we were doing jack webs and we realized it was too easy. So instead of doing an air press, we started doing a kettlebell, what we call a stinger, which is a, you know, upright row.
A high pull,
a high pull.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's not a jack web, so we started calling that jack hell. Well, this morning I couldn't remember the name of jack hells, and I was like, well, I wanted to call it. So just as I got, so the next exercise, the name wasn't there, so I called it the crack web instead. I don't know why. And it was only one other guy. It was only me and Chicken. Chicken broke his foot, so he's been out of commission. So he didn't want the must champ, so I just took the whole thing. And when we finally got around, he's like, it's funny when he saw me pull the bell to that position and where we always do that, and he was like, oh.
You knew, yeah.
He's like, ah. And I thought it was so funny, but it's illustrative of the point. Is like, just keep going.
Yeah.
You know, just keep going.
And I tell guys this too, like in their own lives, right? And it's not exactly the same, but it's along the same lines, right? Of speed versus line, that kind of thing. Is it's like, essentially, if you're going to breach an obstacle, you've got like momentum is always going to be your friend, always, no matter what.
Yep.
And you know, guys say like, and so I just tell them straight, I'm like, look, here's the thing. You're sitting on the couch, wringing your hands, worried about what to do. God will only ever work with momentum. He doesn't really even care if you go in the wrong direction.
Right.
He can fix that.
Yeah.
He can help you with that because you're willing to move. But he can't help you if you're unwilling, if you're just going to sit there and cogitate about it for hours on end rather than do something. We talk about that all the time on this podcast. And more and more and more in my life, I've become more and more thoroughly convinced that motion is, you know, a bias for action is probably your greatest asset. That is the tool that if you will just create that in your life and in your heart, most of the rest of the stuff will figure itself out.
And it's a corollary that the tiniest motion done with the most aggression releases the most energy. And so for instance, what's the size of the circle when you're pedaling? Right?
Yeah.
Well, what's the size of the wheel?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, so you're not, like, you picture one of those old school bicycles from like the turn of the century where, you know, it's a big, huge front wheel.
The penny farthing.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, but that's not the way we do it. Now think about the water skiing. We talk about water skiing events. So think about the speed and power that's generated if you're on the left side of the boat, you're pulling the left side of the boat, and then the boat turns to the right, and as you swing out, how much speed you generate as you go across the wake. Well, where's the tiniest circle in that in that system?
It's at that rudder, baby.
Which actually, I think it's.
Oh, good call.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's that circle, and then the boat circle is bigger.
Yeah.
And then so, you know, but the guy driving the boat does that. Think about bowling. Now, if you watch a guy who can bowl, if you ever watch bowling, the ball is actually turning into the sweet spot. So crappy bowler, you don't bowl much. You try to bowl right down the middle of the lane, right?
Straight as possible.
Straight as possible. But that's not the way a professional bowler bowls. He throws a hook. And the way he does it is like that. The ball actually is on a giant circle in a limited lane. If there was no lane, it would come all the way back around. Eventually, you know, if friction, entropy didn't get it. If entropy didn't get it, right.
Yeah.
So the power of the ball as it accelerates around the turn picks up all that speed.
And because it's spinning so quickly, if you were to put a string
Right.
on it,
Right.
it is turning, hundreds and hundreds of feet worth of
Right.
power in that
Right.
little,
Right.
yeah.
And this is actually how flight works as well.
Mm.
So the way a wing on an airplane is called a camber, and it means that the downside of the wing is actually rounded and the top side is not. What that forces the air to do is to speed up underneath the wing and thus become lighter. Maybe I had that backwards. No, I think
I'll
I got
believe
that
it.
right.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
think
where
that
you
sounds
get,
right.
and that's
Good
where
old
you get
Bernoulli.
Bernoulli. It's the Bernoulli effect is exactly what it is, because the air has to keep up, and that's why you get thrust. So apply all those examples. I got more, but I'll leave it at that. There's like 100 of them, where a tiny circle, focused energy on a tiny circle, releases energy on a bigger and bigger and bigger circle. The last one I'll just do the one is in Hapkido.
Did you say the top was curved or the bottom was curved?
I can't remember. I think it's the top, actually. Yeah, it has to be the top.
Yeah, it's the top.
It has to be the top,
Yeah.
because it makes the air go faster over the top.
Yeah.
And the faster air is lower pressure, and that's what gives you lift. It's not that the wing is like that. Now, that's what you think in your head, right? It's like that. It's just that the air, when the air hits it to go over the top, it has to go faster. That's the Bernoulli effect. So when I took Hapkido, they taught us, how to flip a man, throw a man for a flip, right? How to use his energy against him. And so he throws a punch at you, whatever, but you catch his hand and you turn it. And he has two choices: one, to let his wrist break, or two, to follow the pain. And he flips over. So you create this tiny little circle, and he creates a huge circle with his body, and he flies 10 feet and lands on his back, and all the fight's taken out of him. Tiny little circle, focused energy. Now, apply all those ideas, tiny circles to big circles, focused energy, and momentum, because that's all. That the reason why the big circle picks up speed is to keep up with the little circle. So that's the speed it's the air over the wing. That's the speed of the bicycle wheel trying to keep up with that's how it works. And that's why you gain momentum and you hit that power pocket. In your life as a man, focusing your energy on that tiny concentric where you have impact releases impact in the world around you. That's how you live right. That's why you focus your energy on the tiniest circle the most. So an odd thing happened to me along these lines right before we did this, actually. My eldest daughter is visiting from New York, and she said, this friend of hers, her parents are going to a new church in town, and she said, the pastor of this new church said your name on multiple times during a sermon and asked everybody to pray for F3. Well, oddly enough, her friend walks in 5 minutes after that, and Carson, my daughter, says, hey, I was telling my dad about that church, and she told me the name of the church, and then I realized who it was, and I think I met this guy maybe one time, and he kind of caught on to F3 and our connection to discipleship, and it reinforced the idea in my head. Well, all we really did in Metro was this. This, right? This. That's it. And the impact that's generated outward from that has reached, at least Omaha, And so when we sit dark,
Papua New Guinea.
Yeah. When you sit there and you listen, is it really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, far ends reach earth. When I was going through a Charlotte Leadership Forum here in Charlotte 20 years ago, which is like a Christian discipleship block course of instruction, they had missionaries from Papua New Guinea come in and talk to us and tell us about how they had got these. It was two women, two nuns, and how they'd gone to Papua New Guinea and devoted their lives to missionary work there. And there was no written word. There was no they had to translate the spoken word in this distant village and create like a writing for it, and then write the Bible in it, and then teach people how to read it. I mean, it was so involved. And I remember sitting there going, I've been a Christian for like a month, and I'm like, I'm just trying to stop masturbating, if that's okay. I mean, it was, I felt so silly, you know, I felt so silly in that the idea that I could ever have impact in Papua New Guinea is laughable. I will never get my life together enough that I can have impact on my next door neighbor. You know, I mean, that was my thought process. And then after it was a 2-year class, and after I graduated, you know, this is where I was inspired to try to like get men's groups together, because I thought that was, you know, and I was floundering around, and that's how I was, you know, I was told this story many times, but that's how I ultimately was led to F3. But this is the first time I've ever been told that finally, after 20 years, the tiny circle has led to Papua New Guinea.
That's it,
That's
baby.
kind of wild to think about.
It's
I had to look it up on a map, Plagu. I didn't even know where it was. I was like, I know I've heard of it, but
it is kind of wild when you think about if the better technique on right where you are on that small, proximate, tiny circle, your wife, your family, your shield lock, your whetstone, and your blades, and your work. If you're doing that, it's going like that.
Yeah.
You know, it really is,
Well,
because that
maybe
circle's going so fast that everything around it's trying to stay with it.
Yeah. And that makes a ton of sense. It kind of explains something I've wondered about for a long time, is like when I'm better at work when I'm less focused on it. Because
of course.
when I'm turning that, you know, the smaller wheels in the center of that, then you know, because I think it's interesting, right? Because when you show up to work and you're just there to solve problems and bring, you know, do what you do best, and you're not like, so focused on work that if the project doesn't go live, your life is over, right? Then I like you have more clarity. You had, you know, but I am curious then in this sort of obstacle that I think I've run into that's like pretty isolated to that work ring. Is there a small, like, how do I identify the small wheel to turn there, or do I not really think about it? Because I think the next chapter in Zebra Jockey is about adversity and adaptation, and so then how do I overcome this obstacle kind of in this, I don't know, maybe.
So the innermost wheel in my view is right in here, man. And that's the purity of your heart. That's your thought, feelings, and emotions. And of course, it's your daily guardrails, right? You know, if physical fitness is how you keep your body strong and you dedicate yourself to that, you know, this morning, I mean, I thought I was going to be done in a trial last night, but I wasn't. We have to close this morning instead. So I realized, oh man, I've got like 4 hours of work to do to be in court. So I got up, I went to work at 3 this morning, worked for 2 hours, and then the workout is in the parking garage, so it was great for me. So I worked for 2 hours, went downstairs, worked out, came home, took a shower, went back, you know, got ready, spent those hours, and went and did my closing argument, right? So that was an obstacle. My physical fitness, my preparedness was crucial. I wasn't going to give that up. When I prayed with my wife this morning, before I left, I prayed for the Lord to protect me because I didn't conduct spiritual fitness. I got my physical fitness, but not my spiritual fitness. And in trying to decide which one to do, physical fitness takes an hour, spiritual fitness takes 2 hours. I have a 2-hour spiritual fitness routine. And I said, you know, my wife and I prayed together that I wasn't armoring up. So please protect me today, because I'm not going out with my armor. My armor's from last night, from yesterday. You know, it's a day old, right? And that was my prayer. So that's how you keep your heart pure, your thoughts, your feelings, and emotions, right? You keep those pure. that tiny circle helps you get through the obstacles. And sure enough, today in court, I faced an obstacle. The other lawyer in this case that I'm involved in did some stuff that was pretty low down. And in days gone by, I'd get mad and react poorly to that, not to my client's benefit. I know he's trying to get my gun, he's get my goat, he's trying to stir the pot in that way. And it just bounced off like the bullets in the Matrix bouncing off Keanu. You know, I'm like just flicking them away because my heart was prepared for that. So I would say if preparedness in F3 style is being ready for getting ready for the expected and being ready for the unexpected, I intentionally got ready to deliver a specific closing argument. I had to talk for an hour straight, 1 hour, to summarize the evidence in the law in this case to the judge. So for an hour, I was able to prepare for that specifically. The exhibits, that law, all the stuff that needs to happen, and formulate the argument I had. I had to be ready for the kind of junk that this other dude would throw at me, which I did the best I could this morning by asking the Lord to protect me.
And by doing Jack Hells.
And by doing Jack Hells. So it came out okay. So taking that to Plagu, what do? Is, man, you focus on those guardrails, man. On those daily guardrails that accelerate fitness, fellowship, and faith. And when you start with the fitness part of it, I know you got that together. You have that workout. I don't know today when I walked out of that workout, if I was going to just have to carry my litigation bag into court, or might I have a 150-pound terminally ill friend that I need to be able to pick up without help, alleviate his pain, and move him to the chair. But why are we doing these things? For that. You don't know if it's going to happen or not, whether you got to carry a kid, whether you got to carry your wife, whether you got to carry a stranger. You physically do not know. You do not know, but you need to know that you have the capability to do that. So you get ready you are being ready for the unexpected. That's the physical part. Spiritual part is you're under attack all day long. Spiritual attack, right? The rulers, the authorities, the powers in this dark world, the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms, right?
And the more effective you are,
right,
the harder that attack's going to be.
Of course, because he sees you as, think about it. Now, something like that, somebody, my daughter's friend saying, oh, this church my parents go to, they mentioned you by name, whatever. It's like half of my brain says, hey, that's gratifying, I'm honored. The other half says, uh-oh. Right?
I'd rather be under the radar on this whole deal if it's okay with you. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I react poorly in court to something, even though I justify it in my own mind in that moment. I say something out of anger, say something that's inconsistent with my faith. Somebody, there's other people in the courtroom. Yeah. Could be the judge, could be the guy who does it. Could be my client, could be my associate. Somebody who's struggling with faith, someone to whom I could be an example of grace under pressure. Grace, Christian grace under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I could be an example of that. I could embody Christ in that moment, but instead I react poorly out of the flesh. And I say afterwards, oh, well, any man would have done that. Well, no, that's not so. That doesn't give me the right to do it.
I was going to say, and maybe that's even true. Maybe any man would have done that.
That's right.
But your call is not to be any man.
That's right. We're supposed to be a virtuous man, a man of whom someone else would say, man, that guy, I don't know how he did that, right?
How's he do that?
How did he did that? And then you hope he asks you, and you can say, only one way I could have done that, and that is to surrender to Christ, who says to me, I won't allow it.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do it, right? So Plagu, when that little circle here, right? That's the one that you have dominion over. That's the one. You can, through spiritual disciplines, through spiritual training, not physical, spiritual disciplines, you can strengthen that so that it can bear the pressure. It can bear the test, the analogous test to picking up the 150-pound friend.
Yeah.
So the 150-pound challenge you might face, whatever it is, work-wise, family-wise, whatever. So in that moment, when you exhibit that powerful grace of self-control, the power of self-control, and someone sees you do that, and they say, something different about that guy.
Yeah.
What is it? I want to know. Right?
Well, that's been the most effective EH tool I've ever had in my
Always.
life.
Absolutely true.
As they go, what is with that?
What
dude?
is
Like
it?
that, you know,
You
or
guys
they
are
see you lose
different.
weight. Yeah. What's
Right.
going on over there?
What is different about those guys? They're
You
different.
know, it's funny. It's a tenet of my faith, right? But every day I rise and I put on an undergarment, right? It's a vestment in a
Yeah.
way, right? And as a reminder of who I am and what I'm supposed to be.
Right.
And it's funny because U-Haul, unbeknownst, right, actually made this suggestion at one point. He said, it's almost like I want the men to have like an F3 undershirt, like white on white,
Right.
you know, with the
Right.
logo.
Right.
To
Right.
remind them of exactly what Dredd's talking about. Just be like, because this is where it turns. This is where it turns, you know.
Right.
And you put that on under your shirt every
Right.
day, and then you put, then you put on the armor, and off you go. Right?
That's why I started wearing this
Yeah.
little cross, which I'm not a Catholic, so wearing a cross is kind of not of a thing. But I wanted to have a physical reminder, and I find myself in so many situations where I'm under spiritual attack, pulling this out, and I'm just rubbing it between my it's just my finger and my thumb. I don't even remember starting that habit, but it's just it's a physical reminder of who I belong to and what that means that I'm supposed to do.
What's
It
the real
reminds me
call?
of that, right? And I look at that crucifix and I say, okay, well, I got a lawyer accusing me of things I don't like, I don't believe are true, and are underhanded and dirty. And I've got a Savior that bore a cross on top of Calvary and willingly laid down his life for me. I think I can take it.
Yeah.
You know, I think I can withstand that and say, forgive him, Father. He knows not what he does, like my Savior did. And then that tiny circle that started in Jerusalem and got bigger and bigger and bigger and found its way here in a slightly different way, darkened, I believe. And it found its way here to the same end.
Yeah.
Which is that we now embody Christ in what we do, and what we say in my church, that the embodiment is to be who Christ is, know what Christ knows, and do what Christ does. And we are to embody him throughout our day so that others see us and say that you are different. It's not just that you call yourself something. Funny too, Dark, because another thing my daughter and I were talking about right before that was she was telling me about something I did not even know about, which is these the lives of Mormon wives. I don't know if you even know about it, right? And she's telling me about it.
Whatever.
She's telling me about it, and I said, those women are not members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And she said, how do you know that? And I said, because that's not how they act. I said, that's not even the right name. They're Minos. They're Mormons in name only, and not even, because that's not the right name. You know, the LDS men and women I know don't act like that and wouldn't act like that. So, you know, they can claim it, but that's not true. And there's nothing that, I don't know if your church is suing these people or trying to get them to stop or whatever.
We mostly just ignore them.
You just ignore them.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna burn out on their own.
Yeah.
They're gonna burn out on their own, right?
Yeah.
And so, but it isn't what you call yourself. It's what you embody.
Yeah.
What you embody. If somebody said to me, I want to, what is your ultimate, what would be would fill your heart with the most joy to hear about F3, is that somebody spotted a guy somewhere without the shirt on and said, that guy acts like an F3 guy because the way he was comporting himself.
Yeah.
Because of his self-control, because of his desire his selfless concern for the welfare of others, his fitness, and his use of it to better the community. That would make me
absolutely. And to bring it kind of back full circle around, speaking of tiny circles turning, right? And that's what I was talking about when we started, right? That's exactly what I'm talking about. And that's kind of where we started this deal, is that your CrossFit gym, you're eating hot dogs at Costco, you're Andrew Tate's, you're any number of these guys that are charging you an arm and a leg to go to some retreat or other. I think that much of that has good in it. I'm not trying to
some of it has good in it.
Sure, fair, okay.
Well,
there's many things in there that have good in them, but none of them will bring it together in a way, I don't believe, that will equip a man to do something about it. They'll talk about it.
Right.
They'll give him an idea, but they're not going to tell him and equip him to become a virtuous man and a virtuous leader.
Right.
Yeah.
My wife tweeted this article the other day, and I read it, and it was a woman writing and saying that after 20 or 30 years of being demonized, men have surrendered and pulled back. And after 20 or 30 years of being encouraged to do so, women have tried to take the role of men. And it's demonic, because it's destroying the family unit. And she said, we are lost unless men reassert and reclaim their role as spiritual leaders of the family. And that's just my wife. And I asked her, I said, why did you find that so compelling? She said, well, don't you agree with that? So well, yeah, it's my life to say that. I mean, obviously, that I believe that to be true. And so to me, that idea of being the spiritual leader of the family is invigorated male community leadership. That's what it's about. It's not, it's the thing that some of this manosphere stuff stops short of. They may accurately diagnose the demonization of men. They may accurately diagnose the convincing of women that to be a wife and to bear children is not a miracle. That for some reason they've also have to do everything a man would do. Right. So that they accurately say that, and then they go off the rails.
Yeah.
Because at the end of whatever their program is, and you say, so why is this all good? Why are we reclaiming masculinity? And it's always
to raise ourselves.
Always back here to reassert ourselves.
Yeah.
To reclaim manhood. I said
my rightful spot.
But why? But why? Because if but why is not so that we then can reassert our spiritual leadership in the family, so that we love and protect them, so that we can reassert ourselves as an asset in the community, so that we can reassert ourselves as battlers who fight to hold the middle of our nation.
I've heard that somewhere.
I've heard that somewhere, because that is the why. That is why. That is why. So when no one is there, you can pick up your 150-pound friend and do it, because that's what we do. That's what a minivan centurion would do. That's what a zebra jockey would do, because that's virtuous to do so.
Yeah.
That's the why.
Well, I love it. And I personally, I don't believe in Peter Pan, Frankenstein, or Superman. All I want to do is ride my bicycle. You know what's
Did you look for
it's
that?
a little bit of a stretch there, Plague. I don't know.
I did not get leave,
but it is not Geddy Lee. That is for
I
sure.
want to ride my bicycle. I want
Queen.
bicycle. Yeah, it's Queen.
Yeah.
You know what's so funny, as you guys were as we're unpacking this, I sort of had this realization that the thing I initially described as an obstacle is not an obstacle at all. It's really just something that I'm trying to control, and I'm afraid that I can't control it, and the outcome, so I think,
Plague, I'm going to tell you that's probably your default. Anytime you're thinking to yourself, I don't know, man, why don't you just go ahead and assume that's what you're probably trying to do.
Yeah, well,
that might be your default, man.
Hence back to the being a recovering addict. But no, it's really interesting, because I think as you were talking about faith, that sort of recentered me on okay, well, who's in control, and to kind of what you were saying, if I truly believe what I say I believe, it's not an obstacle at all, right? It's just it's just a thing that's uncertain, and when it sort of plays itself out, I'll be able to adapt and work through whatever the situation is.
Or, one step farther, it's kind of like, could you bend the spoon? Wait till you figure out the spoon isn't even there. Like in
Right.
Matrix.
There's no spoon.
But
Yeah.
when there's no spoon, one step farther, that would be the obstacle is there because that's the Lord wants you to divert you off a particular course. So it's not an
It is.
obstacle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the Marcus Aurelius, right?
It's a traffic cone.
The obstacle is the way.
Yeah, he's trying to guide you there, and then it's said so often that it's become trite, but it's true. And one door opens, the other closes. I mean, if you are bound and determined to go through the closed door, well, you're never going through the open door. If you're bound and determined to ride the zebra, you're never going to ride the horse that's right in front of you. And of course, when that zebra does appear, you're not ready because you wore yourself out trying to find a horse. So that's why I think pedaling faster is the key.
Yeah.
Not trying to fight my way through this obstacle on the perfect course. Just move faster, man. Just pedal faster.
That's what I'm going to do. I love it. Appreciate you, fellas.
Yeah,
this was, again, a very helpful conversation for me. So, and
that's what we're here for.
Go
we're
Huskers.
Here for you, Play.
You're here for
Go
me.
Huskers.
Go Huskers.
Go Big Red is how we say it.
Oh, there you? You don't say go Huskers?
Go Big Red.
Sad.
What do you say?
Sad.
You can say both, I suppose.
Sad.
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 On our hands, hope in our chest. We're not defined by the weight of the test. Brothers in step, we carry the flame. Different roads, but the heart beats the same. Every man's got a story to tell. From the valley low to the mountaintop, yeah. Every man's got a story inside. Standing strong, we won't hide. Every man, yeah. Every man's got a story. We've been broken, we've been bruised, but we rise again and we don't get to choose. Through the fire, through the fight, every man's story burns in the night. Scars on our hands, hope in our chest. We're not defined by the weight of the test. Brothers in step, we carry the flame. Different roads, but the heart beats the same. On a story to tell, from the valley low to the mountaintop yell. Every man's got a story inside. Different roads, but the heart beats the same. Every man's got a story to tell. From the valley low to the mountaintop yell. Every man's got a story inside. Standing strong, we won't hide. Every man, yeah, every man's got a story. Every man's got a story. Voices rise like thunder, they roll. Truth in the pain, it's shaping the soul. Chains may rattle, but they break in time. Every man's story is yours and mine. From the struggle to the glory, every man's got a story. In the dark or in the light, we keep marching through the night. Every man's got a story inside. Every man's got a story to tell. From the valley low to the mountaintop